Now we put it together and incorporate drag into the projectile motion. Here's the trinket from previously. Simulates projectile motion. Initial angle from the horizontal in degrees. Initial speed. Calculations of horizontal and vertical components of initial speed, initial velocity, initial momentum, and then doing a time step of 0.03 seconds while the ball is higher than or at its original height, y, vertical coordinate. Calculates the gravity force, calculates the change in momentum, updates the momentum, calculates the change of position, and updates the position. And it looked like this. Made a graph in the main VPython window and also made a graph in a graph that we created. Graph is vertical position versus horizontal position. Okay, so now we want to incorporate the drag. So there are a couple changes we need to make. One is that the change of momentum here on line 24 should not depend just on gravity, but on the total force, what we sometimes call the net force. So now the net force, the total force, is not just going to be gravity. Gravity is a part of it. So we have a gravity force plus a drag force. So that's one change that has to happen. Another is, well, we need the vector for the drag force. So we had a couple of requirements. One is that it has a direction, so it is a vector, and it has a direction opposite the direction of the velocity vector. You get that by taking the negative of the norm of velocity vector, or the negative of the norm of the momentum vector. That's what we have here. Ball dot mom. It doesn't matter, both of them point in the same direction. Then we want to multiply that by some function of speed, which tells us how the drag force will change according to how fast it's going. And I picked the unrealistic, depends on the ball mass. Times 9.8, just because. The more realistic one may have factors out front here that depends on things like shape or smoothness or something like this. And then I just picked a function that decreases with speed, so it is terribly unrealistic. An exponential with a negative exponent of the ball speed, and then I just divided it by 5. So to get the ball speed, I need to take the ball momentum, I'm going to break the line here so it can all show up on the same line. So in this exponent, to get the speed, we need to take the ball momentum divided by the ball mass. So that is what before in the previous video was the velocity, or the speed, the magnitude of the velocity. And I just arbitrarily said let's divide this by 5. That's it. The drag force has a direction. It's opposite the direction of the velocity and the momentum. And it has a magnitude, which is this function. And that drag force is now added to the gravity force to give the total force, the net force. And now it is that net force that we'll use to calculate the change in momentum, which then proceeds to update the momentum, and then after another calculation updates the position. Okay, save. I'm not going to try to save it in a different name. You do what you want. And run it. It did not run. I did something wrong. Inconsistent indentation. F drag equals blah blah blah. Okay, I don't know what happened. We had done this splitting the line before, but it was objecting to something. So I just put everything on the same line here, line 24. Whoa. Okay, I'm noticing an error from before. I've got the ball mass and the gravity too many times. Just needs to multiply the whole thing here. I don't think that's the issue, but okay, so probably the problem I was having before is actually coming from the previous line, line 23. Variable is not a number. Okay, I'm not quite sure what this comment is for. Should have been a minus sign. Okay, I'm a little puzzled because all of this was working previously. Okay, I think I know what the problem was. I got myself in trouble here by putting ball dot momentum. Ball dot momentum is a vector. What I wanted was, I was taking ball dot momentum divided by ball dot mass. I was trying to get the speed. Ball dot momentum divided by ball dot mass is actually a vector. I want the vector. I can't do the exponent of the vector, so I need the magnitude of the ball dot momentum divided by ball dot mass. So I'll just do a magnitude there. And that should do the trick. I should be able to break the line down now, because that's what it was complaining about, I believe. It's still complaining about the indentation. If that doesn't work, I'll just copy everything back. And that looks like it works. There's no red down here. Let's move the output. And you can see it no longer followed that nice parabola that it did before. But it's definitely showing evidence of drag. Again, my drag was seriously unrealistic. In fact, it got stronger as the speed got slower, which is why you see perhaps little effect here at the beginning. But as it starts to slow down, as it moves up and the drag acts on it, it really has a very big effect on it. At this point, it's falling almost straight down. Okay. Yep, and there you go. Adding drag to the projectile.